What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Right before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to two subscribers. I want to give a shout out to both Gary and Jason for their contributions to the channel. All right, you know what I'm saying? Y'all guys are both longtime contributors to my channel. I know Gary told me that he enjoys the content. Keep it up. And Jason, longtime contributor to this channel since 2014. Longtime New York Knicks fan. Hope you guys get your act together. You know, with New York, y'all need to get rid of that owner. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see, man. But thank both you guys for your contribution and support this channel. Now, this is a follow up to the video I did talking about Chris Bosh. Now, unfortunately, Chris Bosh was not amongst those players selected this year into the 2020 Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. But I'm pretty sure that he's going to get in. If I had to take a guess, he's going to get in with the guy that's pictured here with Kobe Bryant next year, that being Paul Pierce. I think he's going to get in next year, if I had to take a guess, man. But he's going to get in. But this year is probably, when you look at each player, it's probably the best all-around trio. You know what I'm saying? John Stockton was great, you know what I'm saying, but he's not quite as dynamic, or was quite as dynamic as a Kevin Garnett. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, from the 2009 trio of Jordan, David Robinson, and John Stockton. We look at these guys, man. Each one of them was a league MVP. Kobe in 2008, I believe. Was it 2008 or 2009? I think it was 2009. I think Kobe was league MVP. Tim Duncan was a two-time league MVP. Garnett was the league MVP in 2004, I believe. Defensive Player of the Year 2007, 2008 with the Boston Celtics. And both of these guys were like just, I mean, if you grew up watching basketball in the late 90s, throughout 2000s, these guys were the face of the league after Mike retired. You know, Kobe played his entire career with the Los Angeles Lakers, as was the case with Tim Duncan. Garnett played most of his career with the Minnesota Timberwolves, but he had his most success with the Boston Celtics, won the NBA championship, appeared in two NBA finals with the Boston Celtics. But when I think of these guys, man, I think of competitiveness, I think of tenacity. Even though Tim Duncan didn't have the exterior facade of intensity, he was very competitive, right? He just didn't necessarily show it on his face. When I think of Kobe Bryant, I think of a player who was possessed with being great. He wanted to be what Michael was and more. Now, whether he reached it or not is up to your conclusions, but there's no denying that he left his impact on the game in so many different ways, both offensively and defensively, both with reputation among players, peers. He was as close to Michael Jordan as we've gotten any other player. You know what I'm saying? He was this generation's Jordan, as closest to as you can get, man. And the respect, like I said, the respect factor that he had, even before his tragic death this year, was phenomenal. Now afterward, it's just, he's reached a level that very few players could ever attain or reach to attain. And now he's immortal. He'll be immortalized forever with his enshrinement in the Hall of Fame. But we have to be realistic. This is also a very sad occasion because he was supposed to be here. He was supposed to be here. This was a moment of closure, if you will, for Kobe Bryant on his prior career as a basketball player. And due to a tragic accident, fluke accident, he will not be able to enjoy what should be one of the most joyous moments of his life outside of, his family. So that will put a bittersweet um, cloud or mask over this situation. But with Tim Duncan, this is a guy that was dominant all the way back when he was in Wake Forest. You know what I'm saying, in college. And, I remember one of the first games I saw him play, it was against my Chicago Bulls. And I was totally impressed with, the Twin Towers that they called them. You know what I'm saying? Like they were wreaking havoc in the NBA even back then. And their interior defense was partially why, even though the Bulls won that game, we shot like shit. Jordan took 40 shots just to get 29 points. Like we won, but you could see the effects of Tim Duncan's uh, phenomenal defense even back then. But Tim Duncan to me is the greatest power forward of all time, 5-time NBA champion. Um, he sacrificed his numbers for the Greg Popovich Spurs system, as did Kawhi Leonard later on. Um, Easily, in my opinion, Tim Duncan could have easily, on an average team, averaged 29 and 13. Easy. Probably should have won at least one scoring title if he was on a different team. But he sacrificed his game for the betterment of the team. That's why a typical Tim Duncan season was more like 22 points and 13 rebounds. You know what I'm saying? But when they needed him, Tim Duncan always stepped up. He almost always delivered for the Spurs. And that's why throughout his career, they only lost one NBA Finals. That was against that great Miami Heat team in 2013, and they barely lost in 7. Kevin Garnett, not quite as successful in the postseason as these two initially. Both of these guys won 5 titles. Garnett won 1. Garnett, unfortunately, wasn't as blessed to be around talented players as were the case with with Kobe and Shaq, and later on Pau Gasol and Andrew Bynum and Metta World Peace. Tim Duncan, has always been around a plethora of great players, whether it's David Robinson, or later on with Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker and other good players, Steven Jackson, later on Kawhi Leonard. You get the picture. Um, Kevin Garnett didn't really have that, really. Early on he had Stephon Marbury, but they weren't really a mesh. Marbury was always a shooting guard masquerading as a point guard. You know what I'm saying? In today's NBA, I think he'd be a shooting guard. Um, Garnett was phenomenal, though. Garnett will consistently get you, in his heyday, he would always get you something like 20, 22, 23 points, 13, 14 rebounds a game. He'd get you 3 or 4 assists per game. He'd block 2 shots. He'd give you, 2 steals. He was, at his best, a perennial stat stuffer. I don't think he was as dominant as Tim Duncan, but in some ways he was more versatile, especially on the defensive end. He was always a guy that had a touch that was great for a guy his size. He was always a great foul shooter. He was a very great defensive player. But unfortunately, for the most part, except for maybe 1 or 2 years when he was with the Timberwolves, he really wasn't blessed to be playing around great players. But all that changed when he went to Boston, and he was able to win a title. And I think they would have won at least 2 titles had he not got injured prior to 2009 postseason with the Boston Celtics. Now, toward the end of his career, He was a bit of a journeyman. Finished his career back with Minnesota in 2016, but and he was a bit controversial. Some people didn't like him. Some people thought he was an asshole, but that was just the way he was. It was just the way that his mindset was. If you were a teammate of his, he'd do everything he could to help you. If you weren't his teammate, he could give less. He couldn't give a fuck about you. That was that old school mentality that he had. That's no longer really there in the NBA. Everybody wants to be friends. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, these three guys are going to be inducted. Um, Probably it should have been four with Chris Bosh, excuse me, but um, politics plays a role in these things. You know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure that next year Chris Bosh is going to be a Hall of Famer. But in this situation, these three guys, these three titans of the game, are all going to be. You know what? Now that I think about it, the last time I can think of in any sport, the last time I can think of this level of players all being inducted, or yeah, players being inducted in one enshrinement class, it would have to be I have to go all the way back to like maybe mm, maybe something like 19. If you're talking about the NBA, maybe like 1974ish. You know what I'm saying? I think that class of 1980 was something like, I want to say it was Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Jerry Lucas, Jack Twyman, or something like that. I think it was something like that. But in Major League Baseball, I know the original draft and induction class was Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb. I think it was Chrissy Mathewson. It was something like that, and maybe Honus Wagner. Like, I mean, you really have to put into the perspective how great these guys are, man. And as far as NBA players, these Garnett's top 25 all time. Duncan to me is top 10. Kobe at least top 10. Some people have him in his top 5. So yeah, these are really top tier guys. You got a guy in Garnett that's probably a top 4 all time power forward. Tim Duncan to me is the greatest power forward of all time. Kobe Bryant is the second greatest shooting guard of all time. So this is a great class, and you know, I know it's a great moment for Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett. I know that for the remaining Bryant family, they would give all this up just to have their patriarch back. But at least this is an occasion to celebrate his basketball greatness and another chance to remember a great player and a very good person that was taken away from us much too soon. What you guys think?